Joining me now is the social policy analyst, Dr. Rakib Ehsan. Dr. Rakib, thank you so much for joining me. So from your perspective, what three issues would you like to see the new Prime Minister tackle?
Well, firstly, I think that the cost of living crisis has to be the next Prime Minister's priority. We have a very serious problem when it comes to the relatively high rates of inflation, but the rate of inflation is even higher for society's most deprived households. So whoever is the next Prime Minister, it does look like it's going to be Liz Truss, but whoever it may be, they have to find ways to get greater financial support to lower income families, especially those with young children. So I think that that would be the ultimate priority. I also feel that illegal immigration is a very serious problem, especially for the ruling Conservative Party. I think there may well be a change in who the Home Secretary will be. There's talk that if Liz Truss is the next Prime Minister, the next Home Secretary is likely to be Suella Braverman. And she seems very adamant that in order for this UK-Rwanda migration partnership to work, in order to facilitate deportations, she would entertain the possibility of the UK withdrawing from the ECHR. The Conservative Party seems to be very committed to the UK-Rwanda partnership. So you may well see that discussion about the UK's relationship with the ECHR being talked about a great deal. The third one for me is something that we've talked about a great deal, Nana, and that is family breakdown. I do think that next Prime Minister really has to introduce a pro-family revolution of sorts when it comes to social policy. And in a way, family breakdown is somewhat tied to the cost of living crisis. 3 in 10 children in the UK live in poverty, Nana, but that goes up to 1 in 2. Around 50% when it comes to children living in lone parent households. Now, of course, we should be against the stigmatization of single parents, but we have to be honest that there are particular social structures, social family structures, which are more strongly associated with positive youth outcomes, whether that's performing well at school, cognitive development, mental well-being. So I'd really like to see the family being at the heart of key government decisions going into the future.
You can get yourself in all sorts of problems with that one, with how you define family and what is the family, and because a single mum with 2 kids is a family. So that's, the unit of family, and the description as to what a family is would be quite difficult for a government to sort of encapsulate. But I want to ask you about the NHS, because you've not mentioned that. What about the backlog there? Is that not a big issue for you? There's almost 7 million people waiting.
I think the backlog for me will also be right up there. I think that when you're looking at the issues more broadly from a Conservative perspective, the reality is that cost of living will be right up there in terms of what needs to be prioritised. But of course, the NHS backlog, much of that is to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. So it is a key issue, and it should be an important issue for the Conservative government, because it's an issue where Labour traditionally have an advantage.
Although they did have a bit of a backlog before then, and a lot of those problems still existed as well. And what about all the strikes, though? I mean, there's everybody's going on strike. We'll probably end up with a general strike if a lot of those on the left get their way. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that what the cost of living crisis and these frequent forms of industrial action show is that the UK's economic model isn't quite working at this present moment. Now, of course, the strikes will be incredibly frustrating for many people in society. However, if the next Conservative Prime Minister was to chip away at workers' rights, or to place further restrictions on the right to strike and general trade union activity, then it may find itself in a bit of trouble in some so-called red wall constituencies, where trade unionism runs deep in some of those local communities. So it shows that there's a bit of a tension there in terms of how the Conservative Party can harness support, a newfound support, in areas where it traditionally didn't win, but won some of those seats in the last general election.
Well, it's a very fine balance that they're going to have to strike. And in one word or two, you can say 2 words, who would you like to see become Prime Minister?
Well, I think that in 2 words, I think it will be Liz Truss. That's what I have to say, but I don't have a strong preference, if truth be told.
Okay. Well, listen, Dr. Rakib Ehsan, thank you so much for talking to us. Always interesting to talk to you.